So you probably heard it all. The market's slowing down. We're not in a seller's market anymore. People aren't buying. You've missed your chance. Well, all of those things are related to selling your home, but guess what? Homes are still selling fast in Kansas City if the seller knows what they're doing. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you how to sell your home quickly, even if the market feels a little sleepy or we're moving into a buyer's market, or even if it's starting to get a little more balanced. Hi, my name is Anita Cordell, and I'm your Kansas City real estate agent who loves to help sellers make smart moves. I also love creating videos about Kansas City, what it's like to actually live here, what it's like to work here, what it's like to play here. And I create videos every single week. And no matter whether you are purchasing or selling, whether that's in a year or in just a week, you can reach out to me. My contact information is below in the description, as well as there is a link that goes right to my calendar. And if you click on that link, it's really simple. You'll get some selections on what I have available. You can click on what that time frame is, and we can set up a call that talks about your real estate goals. Okay, so let's talk about why some homes sell super fast and why other homes just sit on the market. Now listen, while some homes are sitting on the market longer, there are homes that are just flying off the market in just a day or two. There is a difference, and it's called strategy. And I'm going to walk you through some of those strategic decisions that you will need to make in order to help your home sell faster, especially if you're trying to buy another home, which I just created a video last week about how to sell your home and buy your home at the same time. And so if you don't follow some strategies, then it's going to make it a lot more challenging. Okay, so let's talk about why some homes sit. If your home isn't selling, then it's usually one of three things. The first thing that I'm going to talk about is pricing. You knew that I was going to say that, right? You knew that I was going to say that if your house is priced too high, then that's going to cause your home to sit. Why is that? Okay, so first of all, if you are trying to sell your home and you are like on the worst lot in your neighborhood and you're trying to price your home the same price as the person in your neighborhood that was at the back end of a cul-de-sac that backs to trees, that's got a fenced yard, and everything is so perfect about their lot, but you're trying to price your home at the same price as what they put their house up on the market, even if your house is very similar, the floor plan is similar, the square feet is the same, it still will make a difference because people look at the lot. And if that's the case, and you are comparing your house to theirs, yes, that's important. But if your lot is not a very attractive place, especially if it's sitting on a busy street or if you're right at the corner of the subdivision coming in, so you may want to consider making a price adjustment if that is the case. I'm going to go into a little bit more about the price here in a second, but the second reason why homes sit is that the presentation is weak. And I'm not talking about the presentation that the real estate agent gives. I'm talking about your presentation. This is items from curb appeal to staging to painting to upgrades. All of those things, if your presentation is weak and somebody walks in and paint is chipping from a picture that was taken off of the wall, or this just happened to me recently where I went out and took some buyers out and we looked at this property and the pictures online were super cute. It was staged so nicely and it made the listing look fantastic. Well, we walked in, all of the staging had been removed. There was not one piece of furniture or decor in the whole entire house. And not only did that happen, but where they took the pictures off of the wall, there were scratches on the paint. There was actually some peeled paint where they hung the picture to hide it. And then when they took it down, they didn't fix it. My buyers actually made note of that because they're trying to sell their home as well. And so when we walked in, the presentation was weak. It was so totally different than the staged photos that were online, and my buyers were absolutely disappointed. They were expecting to see a whole lot more than what they saw, and what it did was it got us into the house. The staging was great and the photos were great, and it got us into the house, but when we got there, our expectation was here and it elevated way down. And so their presentation was so weak compared to the pictures, and my buyers noted it and they didn't like it. You've got to be the shiny penny. And when we're talking about presentation, you as a seller need to think about the upgrades, and you need to think about what buyers are looking at, and you need to put your buyer hat on and walk into your home and see what the buyer is going to see. And I always tell my sellers that apples to apples is not always the case. Sometimes you have to be the shiny penny of all the other pennies that are out there. And if you are the shiny penny and you're priced at the same level as the rest of those pennies out there, those homes out there on the market, then your house is going to sell because you are the best one in that price range, and it could set you up for multiple offers, which is a good thing. And the third reason why homes sit is because the marketing is minimal, or the marketing is even outdated. And a lot of agents still do not hire professional photographers to come into their listings and take photos. So taking professional photos versus, somebody from their old outdated phone makes a big difference. And also too, where you market it. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about that. But those are the three main reasons why homes sit on the market. You've got price, you've got presentation, and you've got marketing. I had a seller in Blue Springs, Missouri that had a home, and it sat for about 45 days before they called me, so we adjusted the price just a little bit, and I came in and I staged their home because it was vacant before, and I brought in a professional photographer. Even though the house wasn't huge and it was on a slab, I staged the home, we brought in a professional photographer, and it was under contract in 4 days. So in this market, you can't just list your home, pop it up on the market, and then hope that it stands out. You've got to be strategic. And like I said, you've got to be intentional about being the shiny penny out there. Now let's expand on these three things and what you can do to help sell your home. So how I'm going to expand it is talk about 5 key things to selling your home fast, especially in Kansas City. As I mentioned before, price is so important. You want to nail the price from day one. Your biggest window of opportunity is in that first 2 weeks of putting it up on the market. If you price your home competitively, not too high, then you will find a buyer quicker. The reason why I say that is because in other markets, the DNA of home buyers is different than the DNA in Kansas City. I get this question a lot when I'm talking to sellers. They will look at the price and they will look at the competition and look at kind of how to price it competitively and strategically. And one of the biggest questions that I get is, well, can't I price it a little bit high? There's always going to be room for negotiations. Well, that strategy doesn't work real great here in Kansas City. And the reason why is because our DNA in Kansas City doesn't work that way. When buyers actually are looking for their next property and when they're looking to buy their home, they actually become like an expert in their micro section of what they're doing. So they might become experts in looking online at properties that might be listed from $500,000 to $550,000, and they look at those price points. They look at those homes in their specific area, in their specific profile every day, sometimes 4 and 5 and 6 times a day. I see it online, and they'll look online all the time, and they literally will know all the houses that are in that price point. So say they see a home that pops up on the market and it's supposed to be priced at $475,000, but it ends up falling into their profile because the agent priced it too high at $525,000. They're going to look at that and know instantly that it's priced too high. And when they know that, they're not even going to want to look at it. That is the way that most of the Kansas City home buyers think and feel. They don't even want to look at anything that's overpriced. And so you're missing out on a whole slew of people that want to buy a home because you wanted to have this mindset of, well, I'll just price it a little bit high and then, leave room for negotiations. It doesn't work that way. And while we want it to in a perfect world, here in Kansas City, it just doesn't work that way. Now, if you were to go out into another city, say California or New York or some other cities where the DNA is actually different, I've heard stories from my colleagues and people who I mastermind with that, yes, price is very, very important in all the markets. When there's a seller's market, these agents don't have a problem listing it higher. And obviously in those markets, some of the people are used to negotiating at a street corner for a purse or all kinds of things. And so negotiations in their livelihood is just part of their lifestyle. Here in Kansas City, it's not that way at all. And so as a seller, I'm going to keep harping on this, that you've really got to make sure that you're not only the shiny penny, but that you are priced strategically and competitively so that you can get people in your home. That is why you're trying to sell your home, right? Is to get people in so that you can move on to your next real estate goals. As an agent, I never really like hearing, oh, we can price up high or a little higher, and then they'll offer to negotiate and we can always come down. No. Buyers won't come out and look at the property, and that is just the facts if it's not priced competitively. All right. Key number 2 is prepping. I know I mentioned this, but prepping equals profit. And when you declutter, depersonalize, and deep clean, these are 3 of the D words that are so important. So let's just talk about decluttering. A lot of times people think that what they have in their home is great and they live that way. They have the decor that they like, and they don't see the decluttering that is needed. That's how they live, that's how they work, and they don't see a problem with it. But when a buyer comes in and if it's not decluttered, then they have a very hard time thinking that they can put their things into this space. It needs to be very clean and simple, almost like a minimalist person would live or a model home. You want to take away all of the extra things that are in your home and try and get them, move them out in storage. And this is where I can come in and take a look at what needs to leave and what we can keep for the staging purposes. The same thing with depersonalization. A lot of times people have murals on their wall with all kinds of family, legacy pictures and all of that. Most of the time, all that needs to come down, because when people walk into homes and see aged pictures or a slew of family photos that are a little bit on the old side, the buyers have a hard time making that home their own. So when it comes to depersonalization, I don't necessarily mind a few family photos that are left up, but for the most part, you really need to take down as much as you possibly can. And then when it comes to deep cleaning, which is the last D of prepping, you want to hire a professional cleaner. I'm telling you, I see this so many times where people will come into a property and it is not clean at all. In fact, I showed a property recently where they were talking about the AC, and the AC wasn't feeling like it was working as good as what it should. And it was an older home, and one of the first things that they mentioned to me was it feels and smells and just kind of has an essence that the ducts need to be cleaned. That includes part of deep cleaning. A lot of times people just think that deep cleaning is hiring a professional cleaner to come in and, do their work. But I'm telling you, getting your ducts cleaned and doing a little bit of extra when it comes to just having a cleaning service come is going to make a difference. I promise you it will. Then after the 3 Ds, which is declutter, depersonalize, and deep clean, the last is you want to go above and beyond this and have it staged. And this is where I come in. It's just taking it one step further. Even if you added some additional throw pillows, some neutral art. Lighting can make a huge difference if you change out the light bulbs and make sure all of the light bulbs are the same color. That makes the feel of the home so much brighter and so much more attractive when it comes to appeasing a buyer with the senses of their eyes. And so you'll want to do that and to go that step further. So reach out to me because I help stage, and it's such a joy for me to be able to bring life to a property. Even if the property is vacant, I don't like putting properties on the market that are vacant. And so I like to bring, even if it's bringing in enough pieces of furniture to stage a couple of rooms, it does make a difference. Key number 3 is killer photography and video if that applies. This is not the time for those phone pictures and crooked angles and having your reflection in the mirror. Professional photos and videos get more clicks online and get more people in your home than those who clearly did not hire a professional. Then another thing is listing strategically. A lot of times what people ask me is, what day should I list my home? And if you have a choice, then my choice is to list on Thursdays. Why? Well, because it goes up on the market on Thursdays. It allows for the buyer to actually talk with their significant other or show it to family and kind of build that excitement and buzz for the weekend showings. I mean, let's be honest, most people work 8 to 5 or during the day. And so they have that 1 extra day or 2 extra days before the weekend. And then they're able to actually go out and see it. And I've tested this again and again, and it works. If you are needing your home up on the market, then obviously you can't be necessarily strategic about the day. But I have just tested this over and over again, and a lot of real estate agents and colleagues of mine have tested it. So coming on the market on Thursdays is actually a great strategic timeline to try and follow if you can. The 5th key to selling your home fast in Kansas City is to have full funnel marketing. You're probably going, what is that, Anita? Well, that's basically saying that your home needs to show up everywhere. And side note, a lot of brokers have contracts with some of these websites like Realtor.com, Zillow, and other companies out there. And what happens is when your property gets listed on MLS, then there's an automatic feed into all of those websites. However, there still are some brokerages that do not have contracts with these individual websites. And so what happens is the agents have to manually put the listing into all these websites, and it can be time consuming. And there are some agents that choose to not do it. And so you want to really be strategic when you have that full funnel marketing and know that your property is actually going to go out to all of these other websites. But also too, when you get the link that shows your property on MLS, you can team up with your agent. You can post the listing on your own Facebook feed. You can also put any kind of video content on Instagram or even pictures on Instagram. I do email blasts to my database and even print. You can make some print marketing if it fits the demographics of the home that you're trying to sell. And no, putting it on MLS and then praying isn't marketing. All right, now that we've covered the 5 keys, I am going to share with you some bonus tips to have this competitive edge per se for your listing that might actually help boost your listing above another one. So 1, visual. You have got to make sure that all of it is visually appealing, but there's also some things that you can add as well. So how about standing out by offering some appliances? You can stand out that way because depending on the price range, there are some price points that a buyer is barely qualified to get a loan for a home, and they just don't have a lot of extra money to go out and buy the new washer and the dryer and buy the refrigerator. So those things can actually help give you a competitive edge in certain price points. Another way to give a competitive edge is to offer a pre-listing inspection report. Offering this report actually helps a buyer feel more confident. And what happens is, like I mentioned, in some certain price points, buyers are limited on their funds. And so if you offer a pre-listing inspection report and then mark on the report the things that you have actually repaired or updated, then they will get this report. And some buyers actually might opt to use this report instead of doing another report. Now, depending on the agent of the buyer, it's just going to depend on what that agent recommends. But sometimes a buyer will use your report and it will offer to help your listing stand out because the buyer will then already know what they're buying, and it can help with them financially, it can help with their confidence, and it can show that you are already doing some of those repairs. Another way to add some competitive edge per se to your listing is to provide flexible showing hours for buyers. So for an example, I know that there are some people that have animals, and I have a listing right now where the sellers are trying to sell their home, but they have animals. And so therefore they have to leave work and go to the property, take the animals out of the property so that people who are wanting to look inside the house can get inside the house without having to be disturbed by animals. This has been a conversation that I have spoken with the sellers, and while they are limited on their resources, they can't board their animals every single day. They can work around some flexible hours and be as flexible as they possibly can so that people can get in quickly. Now, another thing too is that when a person puts their house up on the market, oftentimes you can select whether or not you can just be notified that there's a showing, or another way is that you can also opt to do what's called an appointment only listing. And if there's an appointment only, then me as a buying agent, if I have buyers wanting to see that property, I am looking all through the properties that I want to look at with these buyers, and I'm mapping it out, and it's kind of like a Tetris game. And I then have to schedule all of the properties in order by the map that we're going through, and it's convenient for us that way. And if one of those properties has an appointment only listing, then I have to wait for them to approve my appointment before I can be confident that I can get into the other properties after that at the desired time. I know it sounds kind of confusing, but being flexible when people are in your house is very, very key. And then also too, there's some other things in marketing that can help with your home, but that's getting into the house. So be sure and do as much as what you possibly can and follow your agent's advice so that we can get people in your home ready to write an offer. All of these things make your home more memorable and more marketable. So if you are thinking about selling your home, but you're worried about what the market is doing, especially if it's slowing down or it's not the right time, then let's take a look at all of the data together. I'll create for you a free home value report, and this is a box that I will put it in. I'll come and drop it off, and it'll be complete with pricing strategies and tips in order to sell faster. Even if your neighbor's home has been sitting on the market for months, we can take a look at that data and find out why, and then hopefully get your property as strategically priced and ready to go as possible. So reach out and I'll drop one of those by, and you can look on my description. There is a link that you can go to, a Google Documents, where you can fill out all of the information and I can get that over to you. I also have a list of things that you can do as a seller that will help you prepare your property for the market, which I can also send over. I just need your email address. So as we know, selling it fast is still totally possible in today's market. You just need a solid plan and you just need to be strategic. So hit that subscribe button and give this video a like if you want weekly videos coming to your stream. And drop your zip code down below in the comments if you want me to cover a video of all the things that are happening in your zip code. And also too, if I missed something and you want to hear more about that, or if you want me to give some strategic tips on some other things with you selling your home, be sure and put that in the comments below as well. And you just might see a video coming on in the near future with your suggestions. So always remember to buy or sell, call Anita Cordell. #AnitaHome.